Happy day after Valentine's. Are you all sugar crashed still? Have some protein, have some complex carbs, and hopefully kickstart this and get going this morning. Thank you for coming. So this is kind of our agenda today, although I think we're going to deviate just a little bit. We're really pleased to have Aimee Langone from Voc Rehab here with us this morning. I should just step out for a second, but I want to make sure she has time, and she's got us there. She's got her at 9:40, so we'll probably do our some of our housekeeping kind of things at the end to allow her to start a little bit sooner. So let's go ahead and start with our introductions, like we always do. I'm Aimee Langone, and I manage the Medical Home Portal, and I facilitate this meeting. I work for Dr. Norland, who's in the back. And Debbie, do you mind if we go to you next?
I'm Deborah Tobler from Busy Bee Pediatrics. I'm the Clinical Care Coordinator.
I'm Kim Bloom. I'm one of the UPIC coaches.
I'm Gabi Baragoshi. I'm one of the UPIC coaches and the AV lady today. We have Becca on the phone.
Yeah, let's have
Becca, can you introduce yourself? Becca, can you hear us? Screen. No, it's not me. Yeah, go ahead. You want to figure that one out.
Hi, I'm Eric Christensen with the Bureau from the Special Healthcare Needs Integrated Services Program.
Gina Polomeni, Utah Family Voices here at the Utah Care Center.
Nancy Cunningham, University of Utah Health Plan for Self and Medication. Pat Rose, Flex Health, Pediatrics.
And Ron, Behavioral Health Coordinator at
let's all hear our partners of Steve Bernstein, Care Coordinator, Los Pediatric Summit Office.
Special Integrated Services Program.
Care Coordinator at the University of Utah Health Clinic.
Becca, yeah, she's on, but she doesn't respond to my message. But Becca is one of the care coordinators at UPC.
All right.
And she can hear us, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we always like to make sure that there's time for you guys to talk amongst yourselves, as it were. If you've got things that you're having trouble with, and you kind of crowdsource and use this great group of people to see if they can help you. If you've got any barriers and issues that you're having trouble resolving for the families that you're serving. Alternatively, we love hearing about any breakthroughs that you've had, any positive experiences. This is a great time to share those so we can sort of learn from what works. Also, if you've identified any new service providers or resources in the area, we'd love to hear about those. So is there anyone who would like to share anything? Yes.
So I've got a 13-year-old with CP that is having bilateral hip replacement in a month. The family has had a change in financial status and, of course, just build a house, so they're also trying to hang on to their house. In order to qualify for like a medical hardship to have their mortgage reduced, we have to submit a letter, which we're currently in the process of doing. In the meantime, this kiddo is also going to need, parents need help with respite care after the surgery. He is on the DSPD list. I told mom to call to apply for emergency respite. I told her to call the Stillman Foundation to see if they can help with respite because that's part of their mission. They're wondering about getting home health nursing initially because mom cannot move the child alone, unassisted. They do have DME equipment. They have a Hoyer list and things like that to assist with the move. And then there's a whole host of school issues which we'll have to address after the surgery. So I don't know if anybody has any ideas on how to get some help in home in the meantime, if we, or another, would they qualify for home health nursing? I know the last time I dealt with that with the surgery, it wasn't enough of a status change to qualify for skilled nursing for a child. I don't know. My heart's just bleeding for this family because Dad works 2 jobs, Mom works nights so that she can be with the son during the day, and right now he can help assist in his own, with moving. But once the hip surgery happens, then
When is that scheduled?
in a month.
How old is the child?
What's that?
How old is the child?
13. And there's hip replacement, not hip manipulation. He's had 2 manipulations already.
And who's doing the surgery?
China. So I put a call into their caseworker there as well. So I'm just kind of, I don't know, want to make sure I have all the resources kind of in my back pocket to give Mom as we kind of move forward and looking at, different ways to help.
Did you say what insurance is on?
He has Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Have you called to see if they have a care manager there?
They don't. I have called on several things.
Okay.
I keep requesting one, thinking maybe they'll get the hint.
Yeah.
Region.
It is Region?
I think so.
You have. But maybe it was just with palliative care.
I will call and ask them, do you know which, do you know who you talked to, or do you know what department?
I have to try and look at, like I said, maybe it was the palliative, on the palliative care side, because they do have a new palliative care benefit with Regions Blue Cross, not the other blues, but we have a palliative care benefit for both adults and peds, and there is a case manager on that side. Okay. So maybe it was just in regards to that. Okay. I'll try and direct them.
If you think of anything, let me know. I just, like I said, I just kind of want to make sure that I have whatever we can think of available to offer to this mom if the STD emergency respite doesn't come into place. Just kind of all my contingency options to offer her.
Do they have a church or a community connection?
So they have a community connection. There's not a lot of people though that are comfortable with him, and I think we also have this split thing that there's not a lot of people that Mom is comfortable with him, and so she's going to be highly selective in who she brings into this home because they've had some instances where he certainly has not been abused because there's no way Mom would let that happen. She's very on top of it, but where he has been talked down to, or he's been neglected a little bit, and so she's, even her own mother isn't comfortable in helping him. So I'm like, I can't help you help yourself. You know what I mean? Right. That's kind of how I'm going right now. But at the same time, I want to make sure I have whatever options available.
I have the same problem, Dusty, when parents call and say, what kind of benefit do I have for respite care? None. Respite care is huge for these parents, as we all know, and there isn't. I have a child coming home from South Davis in the next couple of weeks, and we don't even need a skilled nurse in the home. We just need an aide at night because of the damage. He's already fractured his femur from the constant movement, and so he's had surgery and he's been in and out of the hospital. We just need somebody to help hold him, and that doesn't have to be skilled, and there's no contracts with companies, there's no CNAs that are vetted that people will do that with. It's a real hole, and yet it's a huge need. Yeah, it's huge.
Well, I don't want to get your hopes up, but do have a contact. We've pierced the tough exterior of Regents in terms of the March learning session, and fingers crossed someone from Regents will be there. We don't want this learning session to be like the Chaffetz Town Hall.
If you say the Pledge of Allegiance at the first of it, that'll calm everything down. We'll see it.
But I am excited about the learning session because we've got Select Health, we've got Healthy You, we've got we think Regents, we've got Primary Children's PSF, we've got, who else do we know for sure? Why is my brain not working? I think we've got one of the other APOs for sure coming, and we're continuing to reach out and making inroads, and they know what the classification, they know the topic. The topic is, if care coordinators who need to work with you, need to know who their contacts are with you, we need to see how we can collaborate, need to be able to ask questions, need to reduce redundancy, and how do we do all of this? And so hopefully we'll be able to get to the point, because it's obviously knowing what insurance is going to cover is your first step, knowing who to talk to about that, knowing how you can move things around a little bit, maybe. So I don't know that that's going to, time frame is going to fit for this family, but
I have a contact that I don't think is going to work for this family, but I want to throw out there anyway. It's called VeroCare. They're out in Riverton, and they do some respite. But big disclaimer right at the front here. It says, due to winter weather and health concerns, we will not hold a respite in January, February, or March. So that, I mean, I appreciate them being careful of all the germy, mucusy stuff going around. But they say that they will, it's in Riverton, and you can register for 1 to 4 hours for respite care. They accept self-pay or DSPD funding, and each sibling is only $3 an hour. So it, can be kind of affordable. So it's an option, I guess, when we don't have 4 feet of snow and it's, germy, flu, and cold season. But
so that's a drop-off?
So
It's center-based.
yeah.
We definitely have VeroCare.
I'm glad you brought that up, Eric, because they are so affordable. And it is parents of a child with significant special health care needs that started that because of the need.
And mom was a nurse, right?
And mom is a nurse, still working at
I do get a smile where it says, do you need a break? For the first time, there's a place that will take your child with a disability, and, in all caps, their siblings. Sometimes you need to get siblings away for a few hours, too. So.
Yeah. Anyway. They came down and played, too. Yeah, so that's really good.
But they're physically located in Riverton.
Yeah, so they're way out there, kind of by Riverton Hospital, not quite as far west as Riverton, but out on 126.
Do you need a break?
Just not in January, February.
If you can hold it together for a couple of days, we can help you out coming.
That is $3 an hour. That's
Well, it's really just a month and a week or something.
Really, in the grand scheme of things, yes, it is. You're absolutely right.
RSC is.
so I did see this Salus. Has anyone used Salus?
We have we have 2 patients who use Salad for their ADL.
Has it been all right?
And yeah, they've been really happy with it.
My daughter actually works there. I'm not putting a plug in for that, but I can always find out nitty-gritty or skinny on what's going on if you need. So let me know.
Yeah, they do fabulous for private duty nursing.
Yeah.
Good. Good to know.
And they've also started hospice agency. They're just new and starting that, but it's so lovely to have the private duty nursing agency also be able to have some hospice support. So I'm thrilled with that.
Good. All right, Salus. Well, we'll be sending good thoughts your way.
Like I said, just aren't missing anything.
all right with everyone, because I think we'll have time at the end where we can pick up any others. I think I'll switch and we'll turn the time over to Aimee if that's okay with everyone. Let me just go back to my PowerPoint for a second to make sure I haven't gotten anything right now. We'll come back to that. There we go. All right. Amy's tapping out and getting out fluid. Yeah.
Okay. So good morning. I'm Aimee Langone, and I am from the Utah State Office of Rehabilitation. I am our Transition and Supported Employment Coordinator. So and what that means is I handle the youth programming and then our supported employment programming. So supported employment would cover programs for people with the most significant disabilities and employment. So, because I usually don't do a formal PowerPoint because I feel like whenever I speak to a group, there's various degrees of understanding of what we do. So, have you guys heard of Voc Rehab before? Does everyone here know what we do and kind of the gist of VR? Okay, there's a couple no's and a couple yeses. So, and just a general overview, vocational rehabilitation agencies are in every state. We are all state mandate or state managed, but we are 80% federally funded. So it's kind of a weird caveat because we have federal rules that we have to follow to the Rehabilitation Services Administration, and then each state does a 20%, it's usually 80-20, about 20% state match. But we're state managed, so they look a little different in every state, but then again, we have some similar rules that we all have to follow. So I've actually worked in 4 other states since Utah, and Utah has a great VR system, so the other states don't, but we do some great things here, so I'm really excited to be in Utah. So that being said, our focus is employment. So we're a state agency that really help people with disabilities find jobs and retain jobs and be empowered to be as independent as they can in the community. So our mission talks about employment and independence. We want people to be independent there in the community. So we work with all ages from youth, starting at about 14. Although our parent company with FFED say that we can go younger than 14, but we like to stick around 14 because otherwise they're not thinking about work yet. But 14 up until as long as they want to work. So we work with adults in their 70s and 80s. So I guess you all will probably be most interested in our youth programs. We are an eligibility-based program, so a person has to apply for services and be determined eligible for services in order to move forward, like be able to be served through Voc Rehab. And that looks like, so for eligibility, our counselors look at 4 different things. They look to see, does the person have a disability? So we want to get medical records signed by a physician or therapist, a licensed professional in that field. So I always tell people we wouldn't accept a medical diagnosis from a psychiatrist, but and vice versa. But we look for a diagnosis, and then if they have a diagnosis, we look at how does that disability impact them going to work. So how, what are their impediments? What are their limitations to working? So for instance, sometimes folks can have a disability, but they don't really need, they don't have impediments to working. They're successful on their own without intervention. An example of that might be someone who is deaf or hard of hearing. They may have a hearing aid and they have a disability, but their hearing aid enables them to hear fine enough to work, and they're successfully working. So I need to come up with another example because I always pick on that one. But so that's the second step. So how does their disability impact them working? And then we look to see if they require services and they can benefit from services. And those last 2 are usually given. We probably kind of assume those. It's rare to from sensory impairments to learning disabilities to physical issues, someone maybe acquired disability later in life. So it really, we're really pretty open disability-wise, but they do have to have disability to be appropriate for our services. I gave you a brochure. So I probably am jumping around too much, but so Voc Rehab is under the UCCCN Office of Rehabilitation. This is our new little pamphlet, and it goes over our 4 main services that are under USOR. I don't know if you, have you guys heard that we used to be under education and we made a move in October? So we used to be under the Board of Education, now they're called the Board of Education, but they voted to move us under workforce services. So now we move under workforce services. Last year they voted, and then we made the merger in October. So it was called the transition, and it seems like we successfully made it through the transition. We're still working on some kinks, but one of the fabulous things about being under workforce is they have a communications department, and they do fun. This isn't my idea, but like I can come up with an idea, and they have a team that can design. So, and this was funny, like I just spent a year on this, and they did it both times. So, but this, I have more I can leave with you if you want to give them to clients or parents. But it goes over our main 4 programs. So we have VR, I won't go through the whole thing, but VR, and then we have services for deaf and visually impaired. So if you have a person who has a visual impairment, they do a lot of cool things over at the DSBVI, like training and travel training and things like that. And then we have services for deaf with hard of hearing in here, and then also under our big umbrella is disability determination services. So they're the folks that make the determination if someone's able to receive benefits like SSI benefits. So, so this is our kind of our main pamphlet, but I'm really going to focus on the VR piece just because that's what I do. We also have a website, and we pulled it up for us. Where's your, right, yes, we go to our home page. So go ahead and navigate that. So this is our main page, and again, it kind of gives you the same information that's in the pamphlet. I like to hold something, but feel free to get in the mode. There are some links on here that you can direct your clients or parents to. So there they are, but there's also a link for parents and teachers if you have use. And then if you click on these, they direct you to different sites. So feel free to use our website. There is also a link for our welcome video on here, and the mine right a little bit, but here's the screen, I guess. So where they put it, this big redesign our website. So, we have 7-minute welcome videos, and if you ever want to show someone those, they're not very time, like they're a quick hitter on what we do.
Isn't there about
YouTube?
Just put more time in the news. There it is. So you can click on that, and we hired actors to do them. They're really short, but they give the basic overview of how you become eligible, how you apply for services. They talk about CAPS, the Client Assistance Program, if someone disagrees with the decision that we made. They know where to go for that. So feel free to direct people to that, the welcome video. So services, what do we do? Our counselors have some autonomy. They really can be creative with helping people with employment. So the crux of what we do is vocational counseling and guidance. We really try to emphasize that. All of our counselors that work with the clients are, they're expected to become a certified rehabilitation counselor. So they all will have a master's degree in a related field. There is a master's in rehabilitation counseling. They don't have to come in with that, but they're expected to eventually be able to sit for the exam, which means they have to take a medical aspect of disability class. say they come in with a sports degree, they usually have to take a couple classes on disability issues, and then they sit for that certification. And then we also have a license in Utah. It's called a licensed vocational rehabilitation counselor. So we expect that of our staff, and they do a lot of career counseling and counseling on guidance on adjusting to a disability. How does your disability impact work? How are we going to request accommodations, and how are you going to self-advocate and things like that? So that's kind of the core of what we do, but then we can authorize for services such as training, school. Sometimes I've heard us called the VR scholarship. Not really a scholarship, but we can help people with training if that's appropriate for their vocational goals. We can help with tools, like, so I always say that we look at the vocational goal first, and then we back up to see how do you get there. So if someone wants to be a nurse, you can't just walk into a hospital, and you all know this. You can't just walk into a hospital and say, I'm going to be a nurse today. Obviously, you need training, you might need scrubs, you might need a stethoscope, you might need those different pieces before you become employed, so we might be able to help with those things. Versus someone who wants to work construction, we might help them buy some tools. Somebody might not be stable with their disability, so we may help with medication, therapy. We may buy prosthetics for them. So it really depends on the disability and then the needs for the job. So we can create. Sometimes we help with self-employment. Yeah, so I think I have a question. Yeah, go ahead.
So you said you usually start with kids 14 and older. So I'm going to assume, and I guess I'm asking for confirmation or not, that you have a connection with the high schools.
Yeah,
how many of these children are mainstream? And I just wonder, like, if I were to help a parent know who to go to in their high school.
That's an excellent question. So we absolutely go into the high schools, and that's, I don't know if you guys have heard of WIOA or the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. So President Obama signed in, I'll try to condense this, but he signed into law WIOA, which in 2014, and we're still getting guidance on how to implement that law, but that law is kind of changing how we do things with youth, because it's really emphasizing providing services to, they call them pre-employment transition services, so they want us to do more to help youth prepare to exit school. We've always gone into the schools and we've gone to IEP meetings, 504 meetings. The degree of how we do that is really different depending on the school. So sometimes schools are really hard for us to penetrate. They're their own little districts. But we have a really good relationship with the board, even though we moved out from under them. And so, yes, we have a counselor assigned to every school. Something that's new that Rachel, my predecessor, started was we do job readiness workshops. So we developed a 10-module curriculum where we provide some training on job readiness activities like interviewing, how to complete applications, and all of that's actually on our website also. And I'm better at getting to this one, especially because it's kind of in our, I'm probably telling you more than you wanted to know, but yes, we do go into the schools, and I'll show you how to get to the curriculum, because if you have a teacher that you're working with, so here's our transition site. So we have different tabs for different things that we do for youth. This is how to find their counselor, the office that's closest to them. And then this is for AP, like some of these technology. And then Social Security, they want more information on how their benefits will be affected by working. And then this one is our transition to service names and the tab. It kind of gives an overview of what to do. And then there's where to find me if you want to reach out to me later. So that's kind of our transition section of our website, and you can direct students to that too. So if you go into a school and you notice that the teachers are saying they don't know who our counselor is, they really want somebody in here, then you can click on the tab or call me, and I can help you connect with that person. Because they will do those workshops at the school, they'll go to IEP meetings. We really want to help partner with the schools and help students prepare to leave so that they do. Sometimes we get, I think a lot of times we get students who have graduated and they've sat home for a year. So even though maybe we were at a couple IEPs, they didn't really make that merger with us yet. And then it seems like at that year mark, they come back to us. So we're trying to prevent that and start earlier. We might not do a lot with the youth that young because they're getting services in school, but that law that I talked about is expanding our ability to provide more services for them younger. So, yeah, good question. Sorry. Yeah.
So I live on the Wasatch Shack. Do you guys subcontract services for the smaller communities to other agencies that work with Rotary?
Yeah. So we don't do everything in house. The main things that we do in house are the counseling guidance that I talked about. We do have some folks who it's called Choose to Work, where they're job developers. So they don't really. They're probably more appropriate for someone who doesn't have a lot of impediments. Because they don't do a lot of one-on-one. They do meet with someone one-on-one, but for someone that could be more self-directed with job search. But if somebody needs a job coach or more intensive one-on-one services, then we contract out with, they're called CRP, Community Rehabilitation Programs that provide that coaching. So you probably heard of RISE maybe, or TURN, or a lot of them.
The one I'm familiar with is, it's called Safe Harbors or Safer.
It's Innovative Harbors.
Innovative Harbors. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's something Harbors.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yep. So they're a CRP that we contract services with that helps us provide some of the job searching and job searching. Yeah, good question. We can't do everything in house, so we do a lot of contracting out for services. But yeah.
So then a follow-up question would be: if how do we find out if? I mean, I know who it is in my area, obviously, but how would we find out who the subcontract?
Yeah,
the subcontractor is in different areas.
That's a good question. So that's something you want to talk to your local counselors about, because we're required to give clients what we call informed choice. So usually when they're selecting a provider, whether it be a therapist or do contract with therapists too and other professionals and doctors and things like that. So we want to give them informed choice. So usually the counselor will go over some options with them and then help them make a decision on who they want to use. Sometimes clients want to call around and talk to them before they select, and other times they really want the counselor to help them make that decision. So it really varies, but I would say make a connection with the counselor in your area, and I'm happy to help you do that, and then we can let you know who's out there. Yeah. Yeah, good question.
You might have said this, but
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
fine.
quite catch it. Is this for those with learning disabilities and
Could
non
be.
learning disabilities?
Yep, it could be. So we serve all disabilities. It really depends on how their disability is impacting them working. So anxiety disorder, learning disabilities, cognitive issues, you know, we're pretty diverse. Yeah, good question. So any other questions? Okay, so not so sure. So let me kind of finish the VR process. So really our goal, they come in, apply for services, we determine if they're eligible, then they meet with a counselor, or we meet with a counselor, but then their counselor and they write a plan, kind of use for the IEP in the school. We write an IEP, individualized plan for employment, and that outlines what we're going to do to help them. It starts with a job goal, outlines services, and then once they become employed, we follow them for about 90 days to make sure they're successful and they don't need any further intervention. And then that's the point we close our case after about 90 days. We can't go any sooner than 90 days. It doesn't mean on the 91st day we're going to definitely close their case, but that's usually the guideline of where our counselors look for it. So we want to make sure they're stable for 90 days. So if something comes up, then we'll kind of start the clock over. That's kind of how our process works. We're designed to be a shorter term intervention, and then if somebody needs long-term supports, or we call them extended supports, then we work with other partners to provide that extended support. So I would say we pass the baton, but at that point, like agencies like DFP might take over, providing that long-term support after that around 90-day mark. We also Substance abuse and mental health has a couple grants going, so they might sometimes be that long-term support person for someone with mental illness. But more prominently, it would be DSP that you see that scenario happen. So that's kind of the flow of how we work things. Sometimes there's hiccups along the way. People change job roles. I had a client who said she really wanted to, she was a youth, and she said she really wanted to be a EMT. So we paid for training. She did all our internships and all that. And then she went on one final ride, and there was a lot of blood involved, and she said, I didn't sign up for that. She goes, I can't handle it. It's making me, she had some mental health issues, so she was creating me some stress. I said, nope, we're going to scratch that and start over. Yeah, so things like that happen, and that's okay. We want to help people be successful and independent.
So how does somebody qualify for your program? How do you, like this EMT, non-EMT, EMT person, how does she qualify for your program?
So they first start with an application, and their application's on our website also. They want to apply for services, and then our counselors will help them collect records to determine if they're eligible. So we have to verify their disability. There's only 3 ways that counselors can verify disability. One is to get, this is the most common, is to get medical records. Sometimes clients have those with them, and other times we have to request them from docs out there. If they don't, if you suspect there's a disability going on and they don't have verification, we can pay for evaluations to determine that.
So having a disability is pretty much the only requirement
yes, or yes, disability is the first.
You have to have one.
Yep, and then if they have SSI or SSDI, because not because of a parent, but because of their disability, they are, we call it presumed eligible. So we would accept that.
Okay.
We don't, that, if they have that, then we say, yes, they're eligible. Because we figure that that other part of our, they've already made a determination that they have a disability. And then the third way is the counselor can do an observation, and that's very rarely used. That might be someone with an amputation. It has to be really obvious. It can't be, really, I think they have a learning disability or ADHD because they can't sit still. No, we would say that's very rarely used. But so if you have a disability, then they have to have impediments to working. So how does the disability, why would they need us? Why is their disability impacting their ability to go to work? Yeah, so that's the second thing we look at.
What about financial? Do you look at financial backgrounds, or?
We do. We don't for eligibility. However, we do, once they're eligible and we're starting to write their plan, we do look at income to see if we feel like they can contribute. We do a financial needs estimate or assessment to see if we think they could contribute. Once they turn 18, they're considered their own guardian, even if they live at home with their parents. So, but if they're under 18, we have to consider the whole family's income. There are services that they can receive that are exempt, so no matter what their family income is, they would still, so that counseling and guidance with the counselors, any in-house services.
Okay.
And then the job coaching is exempt. We don't ask them to private pay that for the community programs. So there are some services that are exempt from that, but we do at one point, just not for eligibility. It wouldn't just affect their eligibility for the program.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah, good question. Yeah.
So is once somebody accesses services, is that it? Or they can, let's say in 4 years, if they need services, then can access services?
Good question. They can absolutely come back. They would have to reapply and go through eligibility again, but they can always reapply. The other, I'm glad you guys are asking these questions because it's reminding me to bring up other things. The other caveat is that once we close their case after 90 days mark or so, if something were to happen on their job and they needed a short-term intervention to save the job, we could reopen their case without having them reapply. We call that post-employment services. So it would have to be to help them retain the same job that we closed them for, and it has to be kind of a shorter term. So an example of that might be someone with a learning issue may have a supervisor change, and the new supervisor doesn't know how to work with them, and there's some conflicts going. They might need us to come in and provide some education or coaching. So that might be an example. But we can do that, but they can reapply later too. We have a few cases where they're not allowed to come back, but that's very, very rare. Yeah, it's been through whole huge process.
Is there a waiting list for applying for the programs?
Yeah, good question. So yes, we are. Right now we're on what's called order of selection. So we do, after we do the eligibility, we also categorize the person based on their severity of their disability. And that's all in order to. We have 3 categories of classifications. There's the most significantly disabled, significantly disabled, and then disabled. It's a federal requirement that we do. We've always been doing this, but we had to go on order of selection a couple of years, about 2 years ago. That first, and what the law says is you have to serve the folks who have the most significant disabilities first. If you are limited in funds, you have to start there. So right now, we're happy to say the first category is open, so someone with a more significant disability is not waiting for services at this point. And then the folks in the middle group, we're working our way through that list, and we're really hoping to have that open within the next month or so. I don't know, we always look at funding and so can't make any promises, but we're looking good to have that one open shortly. And then that third one's going to be closed for some time. So then once we open that middle one, we kind of see how funding goes, and then we wait on opening that one. So the folks in the third category really, they're folks who don't need, usually we say they don't have a lot of impediments. They might need a short-term intervention. We look at, is it over 6 months time? If they're under 6 months time that we would need to help them, then they're probably going to fit that last one. So they usually end up finding jobs on their own or finding other resources. We see a lot of movement on that third category. They might apply, come off, find, have their case closed, and then new people come on. So there's about 850, I think, the last I checked on that last category. So it's not a huge pocket compared to the other 2, but they will be closed. Good question. Yeah.
So these people obviously have to be interested in working.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, our should work. Otherwise,
right? And they have to be able to have the initiative to get to these meetings, and they have a 90-day window to show and comply, correct?
Well, we have different timelines we adhere to. So there's the 90-day you might be talking about is the law says that we have to write a plan. So once so they apply for services, then we have counselors have 60 days to determine if they're eligible or not. Hopefully they don't take that full time, but that's what the law says. Otherwise you have to get an extension, and it has to be agreed to by both parties. Then once they're eligible, the 90-day window is for them to write a plan. So, and the plans don't have to be as comprehensive. They're a working document, I always say, so you can, they just have to come in and kind of get it started, get the plan started. So a lot of times the counselors will identify a vocational goal, and then they'll put we call it a restoration goal. All of our plans will have a goal that addresses their disability. So for instance, someone with anxiety disorder might be, I will work with my therapist to stabilize my anxiety. My counselor will provide counseling. It kind of outline what they're going to do to help them with their disability. So they can at least start with that plan. It doesn't have to be focused on, I'm going to be an EMT or, that helps. That's probably the 90 days you're talking about. But absolutely, they have. We're here for work. So if they don't want to work, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting their buy-in
before
they make the call to you. Right?
And that's sometimes what happens with the youth, because we go to, when we started IEPs at 14, and sometimes we go a couple of years just to, sometimes they don't trust us. The families don't trust us. They're not, there's a government person here. So we spend a lot of time at IEPs just kind of introducing ourselves and feeling. Those classes I was talking about have really helped, because the students get to know our counselors. They see them on the hallway. That's really helped us get into the schools. But so it doesn't mean, sometimes it takes some time for us to feel like they're ready. And they don't have to be ready to work tomorrow, but they have to want to eventually work. We can, there's no time limit on, we expect you to work within 2 years. But the goal has to be worked, because otherwise it doesn't make sense.
Great.
Yeah.
Do they provide or teach them how to travel back and forth to work if they have that limitation?
Yeah, so we contract out for that, but we can do travel training for folks who might need help learning to ride UTA, or we can't be a long-term like transporter, but we can help them try to become independent. We have a program right now at Camp K for our youth, and they're doing some workshops, and part of their workshop is to take them on the bus, and then they follow them on the bus, make sure they're safe, and they talk about bus schedules, and I probably need to do it with them because I'm not very good at transitioning, but
I need that workshop.
yeah, yeah, we should have them come, and you can be at your next meeting.
So going back to the EMT lady, because I know EMT program is not cheap. So do you expect people who went through, you pay for the program, and then they're employed, do you expect them to pay back the?
No, we don't expect them to pay us back because, and I probably as a counselor, so our counselors spend a lot of time in that counseling and guidance, and I have to fault myself a little bit because maybe I didn't explore enough with her what that would look like. You know what I mean? So we would never expect them to pay back. The only time we expect them to return things is tools. We do, if they're over, we're working on that new policy. I'm not sure if that one's final yet. But like if we buy equipment for someone, that we usually have them fill out a form that says, if I no longer maintain employment in this field, then I will return my tools. Typically, we buy computers sometimes, so we've confiscated things. We don't make them pay back services. Yeah, good question. Any other questions? So I want to move into one little other quick thing, and I'm giving you a lot of information. So the law that I was talking about, that's what we want to emphasize youth. That law, not to confuse matters, but they're saying the law says that VR agencies can now serve students with disabilities who are potentially eligible for services. That kind of opened up a whole new door for us. It's a big paradigm shift because we've always focused on eligibility and eligible. So what that means, and I will send Gina and Mindy some information on this once we have finalized our contracts. But how we're serving those potentially eligible students is through contracts. Currently, we went through our RFP process and awarded 6 contracts throughout the state to provide these services for potentially eligible. And 4 of the 6 are finalized. So I have a document that outlines all of the contracts. I just can't release it until those last 2 are finalized. That's what the capital tells me. So I can tell you who was awarded the contract. So there's 3 independent living centers who got awards. Utah Independent Living Centers, so right in our neighborhood. Ability First in Provo, and then Red Rock Center for Independence in St. George. And then there is a private for-profit business that's called Logistics Specialties Inc. And they're kind of in Layton. They're going to kind of serve the more northern area. And then Columbus Community Center, Salt Lake too. And then Easterfield, Rocky Mountain, Easterfield down here. So, so their task is to go out and serve some of these students on that pre-employment stuff. So all that, the law says that there's 5 services that we can provide to potentially eligible students, and those are job exploration counseling, so helping them figure out what the labor market looks like, what career paths look like, informational interviews, that kind of thing. There's counseling on post-secondary, so if you want to go to college, what is the career path, what education do you need to go to college? Then there's job readiness training, which is could be travel training, it could be budgeting, finance, things like that. Interviewing, all that stuff falls under that one. Then there's forgetting work-based learning, so that's where they go out in the community and try jobs, maybe do summer employment, internships, things like that. And then there's self-advocacy, and self-advocacy to me is wrapped up into all the other 4. But you could have a module just on self-advocacy, help them understand how to advocate for their disability, how to go to the disability resource center if they need to, how to ask for accommodations at the workplace. So these 5 core services are really geared to be like pre-employment. They're not, once you get to the point where you're looking for a job, the law says that they really need to apply and get individualized services. They can't, we're really not looking at that. We're looking at how to help these youth 14 to 22 become more independent before they leave school. So that's kind of the intent of the law. There's going to be more to come on that because it's such a paradigm shift for us. But right now, we're dipping our toe in the water, I say, through these contracts that we're serving. So once the last one is finalized, I will send a document to y'all to distribute it, and it has, let's see, what did I put on that? I put the main contact, the name of the company, the main contact person there, how to reach them, and then it has which services, which of those 5 core they're providing, what areas of the state they're serving, and then just a brief synopsis of what they do. So I will distribute that, and then I also have, it's accompanied by a kind of overview of what I just said. What is a student with disability who would be eligible for this? So I will, once the capital says I can do it, I will review that document. Yeah, so not to confuse matters, but it's an exciting time for us because I think those of us that are passionate about youth feel like this is something that's going to really help them prepare to exit school, because it's a scary time for them. So, any other questions? Yes?
I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's great news. That's terrific. It's nice to see some It is.
Yeah. It's made us scratch our heads a couple times. We're like, how do you know, every state has been scratching their heads going, I don't know this is new. How do we do this? So there'll be more to come, but yeah.
So I was curious, you said students begin to get familiar with counselors in their school. So is it one counselor that serves many schools, but they are there on a regular or somewhat regular basis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it really looks different. We have 10 district offices throughout the state, and they all decide on how they want to serve schools and how they can divide the workload. For instance, like South Valley office in South Jordan, they got invited to 30 IEPs in one day, and that's a fabulous problem to have, but they had to recruit from other districts to make it to all those, so we can be creative sometimes, but usually they assign a liaison per district, and then we've had to expand on our ability to serve youth just because with those workshops I was talking about, we've had more of a demand to go into the schools. So we used to have, every office used to have like a core couple of counselors that they were passionate about youth, so they were going in and serving all the schools, but they've had to change that paradigm because the demand got higher. So most offices have diversified and have a counselor serve 1 or 2 schools. And then you've got like Salt Lake, which doesn't have a lot of schools, and then South Jordan has a ton of schools. So they dictate, the office dictates what they're going to do. But every school will have a liaison, and then they partner and help each other. Good question. Yeah, we used to have, so when we went under workforce services, we kind of lost our way to revamp our website, and that's why I need to get better at, I need to practice that more, but full disclosure, right? But they used to have a link to, you push on the school, and then it would show you a picture of the counselor with their contact information, and I'm trying to get that back, but it hasn't been a priority just because there's not going on. So eventually we want to get back to that model for videos. Teachers use it a lot, so if we get back to that, I'll let you guys know. But if you ever need to reach a teacher, feel free to call me. My contact information is on the bottom of this page, too. So, yeah, good question. You guys have a lot of questions. There is my. That's why I usually don't do a completely formal, because it seems like everyone, there's different questions in every group I come to. So, anything else? I know I gave you a lot of information, so feel free to email me or call me if you guys have follow-up or something didn't make sense later. I get confused on a daily basis too with all the new changes that we have. The other thing we're doing with this law is that we are going into workshops, so sheltered workshops or some minimum wage employers. The law says that we have to go in and provide career counseling, or I shouldn't say have to, because it's something that we should be doing, and helping them understand that there's other supports out there if they don't want to work for minimum wage, and help them get to an integrated setting, because we do believe in competitive work and integrated settings. We don't want to see people in a building all day, so our goal is to help them move out. So that's another thing that we're doing, and it's new, and we're scratching our heads on what's best. to do that is to, that we started, and yeah, so, what other employment? So I'm talking about like some minimum wage employment. So yeah, you know, piece work. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you so much. I'll leave those for you if you want to take some, and feel free to call me if you have anything. I'll send you that one when it's time. Hopefully in the next couple weeks. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. Like I said, it's so nice to get with you. That's good. That's great, yeah. And we'll make sure that Aimee's contact information goes out in the resources of the month email that we always send out with a summary of this, so you'll be able to get in touch with her from that as well. Okay. Oh, make sure she can get out, right? Yeah. Cool. All right, so I want to remind you about our directory. So has everyone been able to access the Google document or get a copy of the Google document with everybody's contact information? Is anyone having trouble with that now? Okay, please don't hesitate to bug us, either Kay or myself, if you're not able to get access to that. We want to make sure that that's kept up to date and that you can find your peers and have access to the information about this group and the membership. And then I wanted to make sure that everyone does know that next month, 30 days from today, well, thereabouts, March 15th, we'll be having our meeting at the Officers Club on the University of Utah campus, and we'll make sure that everyone has that information. But it is going to replace this meeting here. And so we hope that you'll want to join us. As I mentioned before, we're really looking at targeting questions around care coordination with specific insurers. And we don't want them to feel like they've been pounced upon, so we're going to try and set it up in a fashion that they're going to get something out of it as well, and we hope to come away with you know, a better relationship with these folks so that they know what you all are doing and that you know who they are and what they are available to do, and that relationship will just get solidified and strengthened as we move forward. But yeah, it's been interesting so far to try and reach out to them, figure out who to talk to. Sometimes they don't know. So yeah, it's been a very interesting experience so far, but we're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good. And then wanted to let you know that, so UCCCCN had a learning session not too long ago where someone from Primary Children came to talk a little bit more about how to use their referral team. And so we double-checked to make sure we understand this correctly, and we're going to be in the process of making sure that we update all of our Primary Children's clinics information in the Medical Home Portal's services directory. And as we understand, they have a main scheduling line. This is it, and it'll be in all of those records. But we're going to add this kind of language to make sure that you understand the best thing to do when you call that to call for one of your families or for them themselves. So when you call this number, you should choose option 1. You'll be presented with a phone tree. And then at that point, you'll speak with a human being after choosing option 1, and then you have to speak with the referral team. And that moves you to someone who can then take it to the next level, if you will, gather the right kind of information to make sure that that appointment is the most beneficial that it can be. So gather that additional background information about what's going on to really help make it a coordinated and comprehensive visit. And so these are the specialty clinics that are supported right now by that referral team. So not just the number, but pressing option 1 and asking for the referral team. These clinics looks better on map screen than my screen, so good. But these are the clinics that are currently able to have that referral team provide those services. And I believe that more will be added over time, but these are they right now. And so we will be working to make sure that that information is in each one of the records in the medical portal services directory for these clinics. So hopefully that will be useful to you. It was a little bit confusing to me, and so I spoke with the person who oversees this, and so she now knows about us. And so I think that's all been helpful and beneficial. And as they are, have this referral team support more clinics, we'll make sure that those get added as well. Okay, so I just had a couple of what I think might be updates, and I don't know about discussion necessarily. This could be our Valentine's gift to you, maybe that you can sleep early today. But just wanted to let you know that we are continuing to work on the transitioning to adult care, and excited that there are a couple things that may prove fruitful in the works. So we are going to be doing a survey of adult providers in Utah. And so we're going to try and find out who they are and how to contact them by email, and send them a survey that basically asks, what do you do, and are you willing to do that for youth with complex conditions as they approach the age of 18 and beyond. And then we'll put that information in the database. And maybe that will be a lot of effort because we will have a lot of people respond positively, but if nothing else, it'll be, we hope, accurate. So that's our goal right now, and we're working to get a final version of that survey and then figure out exactly how to send that out. We've done this before for other types of providers by using DOPL information, and that's maybe where we start with this. So we'll work on that.
I mean, just generically is, I don't know if the survey's been formulated yet, is it to look at certain diagnoses that adult providers are comfortable working with, or is it just asking if you had someone with complex needs, are you generically comfortable taking that patient on? Because you may find you have some that really, great with endocrinology issues, or others, might be very comfortable with kids coming in with Down syndrome or something. So
that's a very good point, and no, we hadn't gotten quite to that point in the survey development. So this isn't just for primary care, but we can have it sort of, if you're a primary care, to go down this path, and we could ask some of those kinds of questions. Certainly, at least allow them to put in where they're most comfortable. Surveys are tricky. If you have too many options or too many questions, that's not going to get you where you want to go. If you have too few, you don't get the information you're looking for. So we'll continue to work on that. I appreciate that feedback. And Dr. Norland's pretty good at helping refine those things, so we'll work with him certainly before it gets sent out. But we also want to identify specialists as well. So that's our goal, is to understand both primary care and specialty providers who would be willing to take on these youth. And then apparently I didn't finish typing here. Sorry about that. So this is the meeting that Dr. Fruin, Claudia Fruin, mentioned at our last meeting like this, that it's the American College of Medical something or other. But basically, this is a local group of family medicine or internists that she's got a meeting on March 2nd, and I think I get to join her at that. So the question there is really, how do we make this more of an issue within your group, and how can we identify folks within your membership who would be willing to take on some of these people? And Dr. Fruin's ultimate goal, as is ours, certainly is to be a list and allow you to refer to. So that's the goal. And then we have other efforts, similar efforts underway, and we hope to be speaking with and plan to be speaking with some folks from the Department of Family and Preventive Medicine at the U to brainstorm some ideas about how to make this, more of something that is just what happens, right? As a family provider, hopefully, you can anticipate having some of these folks in your practice. So several things underway. One, to let you know, we're not going to forget about this. We understand how important it is, and we'll do our best to continue to try and identify people who are willing to take on kids, complex needs as they get older. I think that's pretty much my last slide, so we can go back and talk about any other cases that you're having trouble with. We can do some more brainstorming if you'd like. We kind of glossed over the motivational interviewing and quality improvement wins. If anybody has something they'd like to do a little bragging about that they've done well lately, we love to hear those kind of stories.
Well, sort of how what you have, obviously because it's educative, what is out there, that I had a case that I just kind of sat there and I'll know what do I do until I started really processing it. But it was a family who has a 10-year-old child and a 14-year-old child, both with mental health issues. And the younger child was referred to find a psychiatrist. And that's where you go, okay, how do I find a psychiatrist for this child? As I talked to the mom, he is a behavioral problem. They moved here from Brazil last summer, so he's still struggling with the language. But he also was diagnosed with bipolar and depression and learning disabilities and violence to himself and to her son. And as I talked to her about that, then the oldest sister is having suicidal thoughts. And mom is so concerned about your depression of the 14-year-old. And they do have Medicaid. As I talked about that, I remember that, of course, Valley Behavioral takes Medicaid. They have a psychiatrist in their system for these children. And when I made that recommendation to mom, she was going, oh, it wasn't, that place wasn't on my kid's list for providers. And everywhere she had called that was on their provider list for Medicaid, no one would take this family. And she was just so excited. And after she got an appointment with them, she called me back and said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the other thing that I remembered from here was the family resource facilitator. And I mentioned to her, I bet you're a little, I bet you feel kind of alone in all of this. And she says, oh, yes, I do. You understand. Well, I don't understand, but I realize. So I got her looked up at the family resource facilitator who could be her peer mentor and help her find, and who would know the resources in the community. She told me on a follow-up call that her daughter had tried to commit suicide. And I asked her, well, what did she do? And apparently it wasn't to the point where she needed medical care. She was because I don't ever leave her alone. I take her to work with me when I go to work. And I said, did you take her to the ER, call 911? No. So I explained to her that was important so she could get into getting help. And I gave her the crisis line number so that the mom needed to call the crisis line and walk you through or call 911. So it was because we've had these kinds of programs explain their services, or otherwise I wouldn't know where to go with them. If there's any other recommendations, I would love them. Any other experiences?
That's fantastic. That's great. I'm pleased to hear that. I feel like we should have Valley Behavioral, the family resource facilitators, and other behavioral mental health people here all the time. They could just be in the wings with us every single meeting. That would be fantastic. But I'm glad you remembered that. And yeah, I think that family resource facilitator program is just one that we should take full advantage of.
The only thing I found is they're not fast.
They're not fast, okay.
By the time you get a hold of them, it takes, what, a week? And then they say, well, we'll assign it to somebody. And then that person that's assigned calls you back another week later. So
right.
they don't get on it as fast as we would want them to with our families.
So have you looked into what their contract is? Most of them are only 20 hours a week. They're the family resource facilitators. So their workload far out 60 the amount of time they're there. Which is unfortunate because we're
Sorry, you're watching. Are you talking about family resources? Their caseload is only usually 8 to 10 clients at a time because they are spending anywhere from 8 to 10 hours per client a week. So we actually have one now in-house that I have under the Health and Human Services side, and until I went through the FRF training, I had no idea what they do. So they really are hands-on. They are with that family, going through and making sure that connections are made, and it's all with the family. So it's not just the community services like we all do. It really is so much more. And so if there is, you know, by any chance that this mom has a child that is has both mental health issues and it has intellectual disability?
We don't know the level of intellectual disability for the 10-year-old. I know. And her other issue is that she usually was mentioned, but with learning and language and bipolar and depression, I don't know what it is, but not the name diagnosis.
Right, because I should disclose, Paige that we have working here now, she has actually been assigned to help any family that you have that has that dual diagnosis, because it's such a unique population, and so that's and so we're trying to manage her caseload, but if any of you do have a family that has those intensive significant needs that has the dual diagnosis, call into the parent center for that one.
Parent centers that talk about intensive facilitators. Okay.
In general, you can access an FRS through NAMI's website or
Allies.
things
Is that
like
we're allies and us are
together.
together? Yeah.
Is it on that list of family members?
She is not yet. This is a brand new one. That's what I'm saying for now. It'll get out there eventually, but right now during the training period, and this is a whole new area that mental health and the SPD are going together.
So Gina, have they extended their contracts? Because last time I heard about it, they were only about 20 hours a week for contracts. Are they still that restricted?
Yeah, so they're helping with the legislature because they have great data. Don't think that. They have great data to talk about that. They really do need to extend those contracts because the work there, the outcomes, that's one of the things that the FRF through allies and NAMI, it's called Family Coalition, it's all of those. They can show great outcomes with these families. And so the legislature's really bought into it. So we're hoping that those, because that's a huge impact. When you need help, you need it now, not when that's how everything is. That's every single one of these cases, whether it's an FRF or.
So are there additional things that NAMI and allies do besides the FRF?
Yeah. Allies can actually, they are a parent resource and information center like we are in the emotional behavioral.
So if some guy is hooked up with an FRF, I have her talking to allies.
You
I'm sure the
definitely.
FRF would probably steer her that way.
Alex would probably steer her towards FRF, so I would say have her connect with allies if possible, and then that way that might help with some additional resources for that FRF that the FRF has.
Is this going to be overkill? If I, you know, I send her to Navigator, I got an FRF. She just sent her to ally service from allies. Allies is family service parents.
And again, it's that peer-to-peer model.
That connection that she's going to get with that parent is going to be something similar, or, you know, there's, you know, a little further on down the path with mental health needs. You're also looking at the different things that allies offer, specific shops. There are different workshops that are going to, that these kids can be involved in, which is critical. So she should call the allies number on the website.
Yeah.
Can I
It's better any time that you can have the parent, because like even when we talk, I can give you resources. The parent may or may not talk or go towards them. but when they're talking to another parent, they can kind of do that navigation with them as another parent. It tends to get better results.
But Dusty just asked if we could have allies on the side, because who we had, Wendy, was a family resource facilitator, and she, I think, was focusing on that part of it, not maybe.
And she's from NAMI.
And she's from NAMI. So maybe having allies come back and talk more broadly about what they do, or I don't know, when I say come, I don't know if allies have ever.
Yeah, no, we did, as part of a learning session, when we did an mental health learning session for UCCCN. Yeah. And they came and did a great presentation. And I can't remember how long ago that was, but it was
And
a
wow,
while.
Karen.
Yeah, it was Karen.
Yeah.
It was great.
Okay. Okay, I can see if we can get that in the queue. Good. Very good. And that sort of reminded me, I just heard something on KUER the other day. It was an interview with Nate Checkett at State Medicaid. And I think it was kind of interesting. I mean, I think it might be a little bit premature, but his basic take on what will happen with Medicaid in Utah is that it probably won't change. So I don't know that that's good news, but at least it's not bad news.
I have a different perspective. So this is just FYI, it's now public knowledge. There was a letter that our state Medicaid helped the governor's office to write to the White House about how they can help with all of this. And unfortunately, our state chose to send in some verbiage about EPSDT that they should probably change that to match commercial insurance. If that truly happens, all of the services that we get for our kids under Medicaid will be no longer. So all those optional services and all those things that. And one question about it, they said that the Department of Health Medicaid would help write that. And I was devastated. All of the child advocacy organizations are coming together right now because we cannot believe that there was no transparency in that going forward, because EPSDT really is, it really is the lifesaver in that.
What is EPS?
Sorry. EPSDT stands for Early Periodic Diagnostic Screening and Treatment for children on Medicaid, birth through 21. What it states is we have a Medicaid state plan that talks about the services that Utah agrees to pay for their Medicaid clients. For children, there is, if it's medically necessary, regardless of whether it's in a state plan and there's enough documentation, Medicaid does have to pay for that. That's how we do get some of the private duty nursing. That's how we get some of the therapies that really aren't in the state plan, or they're limited, because we know that children with disabilities, you can't fit them into a box like a state plan. So in any state, all states, of course, even our surrounding states, are very different in what they offer for their Medicaid state plans. The one thing we have going for all of us, whether they're in Utah or North Carolina or Wyoming, is EPSDT, because it's a federal law that mandates that they cover medically necessary services.
And so this letter, now that I know what the initials stand for, this letter did what?
Says that Utah would be on board to change EPSDT if that's how the White House goes forward. Because many of our kids, as we all know, and those adults, it's 10% of the population that takes up 90% of their resources. So yes, they're trying to look at that, but we're pushing back. You're not going to save the money on. So those of you that may not have heard EPSDT in Utah, it's actually also referred to CHECK. It's the the well-child piece of Medicaid. Most people do not further talk about what really the benefits are under EPSDT for our kids.
And on that interview, he did reference trying to work with the feds about, he called it prioritization, and trying to, he talked about with regular insurance, there's things that you would anticipate would be just part and parcel of it, like pharmacy. So he sort of alluded to some of the things you're saying. He used the term optional, shouldn't be optional, but the interview certainly would not, you would never have been, yeah.
No, the only reason that the advocates are aware of it is because during one of the last Medicaid advisory meetings, one of the letters did surface, and it had already been sent, so now it's public knowledge. But there is, Utah Health Policy Project has healthcare roundtables. This is huge for all of us, that we're all just kind of, our jaws just dropped and said, what the hell? So I think that Nate is great. I think he's in an interesting place because of where our state is with healthcare. So but what I really truly don't think is many don't realize the implications of doing anything with healthcare, because it really is the safety net.
Yeah, and certainly that interview didn't get to that level of, Medicaid population. It was very high level.
So now, politically, I'll step off my box.
I was not on federal funds, I told you. All right, well, thanks, everyone. Appreciate you coming. We'll hope to see you next month in Officers Club on the University campus.
Take a cookie for the